Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for this week, instead of doing my regular weekly vlog, I decided that I wanted to make a video breaking down the things that I am glad that I did and the things that I wish I did differently in my pregnancy and birth. So I have my list here, I have my decaf coffee, and I'm just gonna go through the different points and explain some of them. That I would have done differently is I wish I would have put more effort into doing the perineal massages. So if you don't know what that is, basically it's using a type of oil. I can't remember which type is the best. I'll have to research and put it on the screen. So type that's best, so you don't cause any different pH imbalances or anything. But basically it's having you or like your partner massage your perineum. So like if this is your vagina and this is your anus, like here they would use the oil and kind of like go like this to massage it and almost like stretch it out. Like think of like a balloon, how you would like stretch it out first before inflating it, or like a rubber band stretching it out so it doesn't snap. And so basically that is supposed to help prevent tearing. And I did have a second degree tear, and I do wonder that if I would have put more effort into doing this every single day throughout my pregnancy, if I wouldn't have torn, because we only did it a couple times, and I really wish I didn't tear. So that's something I wish I did differently. And then second, this might be self-explanatory, but obviously it wasn't because we didn't do it. Tour the hospital that you're gonna give birth at and make sure you figure out the parking situation. So I did plan to do a tour at the hospital, but every time I looked online, their tours were booked for like 6 weeks out, and I was already gonna be giving birth at that point. But anyway, so I was like, it's fine, whatever, I'm not that worried about it. Like, I've had plenty of clinicals in hospitals, I know what a hospital looks like. But I didn't really think about the parking situation. So Jonathan and I weren't really familiar with how it worked, and it was different buildings, but like across the street, so we didn't know exactly, we didn't really understand how we should do that. And so I had to get out of the car like 2 or 3 times when I was in active labor before we actually got to the right spot. We didn't even realize like there's valet parking. So I had gotten out and like walked to the door and like tried to open it, and it's locked because it was the middle of the night. So make sure you know the parking situation, like the valet parking, what's going on there, so that you're not in active labor getting in and out of the car for no reason. So next is pre-register with the hospital. I did not realize that I didn't do that, and I don't know if my OB office even offered that, because I thought that I had all the paperwork and everything, but apparently not, because I was standing there at the desk in active labor, dealing with multiple contractions, trying to fill out all the paperwork to register in the middle of the night. So that was a mess. It took so long. I had to stand there and go through multiple rounds of contractions trying to do that. Next is take the iron that they give you afterwards. I didn't take it because I was like, why do I need this? Not really thinking that like I'm probably anemic after losing all that blood, but I asked my nurse, I was like, well, why do I need this? Like, are my labs okay? And she's like, I don't know. And she didn't check my labs, which is kind of weird, but if she would have checked my labs, because I checked later online, if she would have checked my labs, she would have known that everything was really low, my hemoglobin, hematocrit, and I felt terrible after giving birth. I was out of breath just walking a couple feet to the bathroom. And then along with this point is get wheeled out of the hospital. You don't need to walk. I don't know why I felt like I should walk out of the hospital. I was in so much pain and so out of breath and like pretty much on the verge of passing out because my iron was so low. But the reason that I refused the iron pills is because I know it can constipate you, and I've heard horror stories of your first poop after giving birth. And so along with that point, take stool softeners. I brought my own. You can take theirs. I'm sure it'll probably add to your bill, but you could bring your own. I brought Miralax powder to add to my drinks. So definitely do that, because I did do that and still the first poop was painful. But that's the reason why I didn't take iron, because I didn't want to constipate myself. But just make sure you take the stool softeners. The next, bring snacks. We weren't there long enough to really need snacks, but I feel like the next day, after we went there at a time long enough to need snacks, I feel like afterwards it would have been nice so we didn't have to wait for the meals. After you give birth, take notes, because you're going to be so out of it, you're not going to remember what they said. And like both my husband and I were like, how did they say that we get the birth certificate and social security card? Because I think their system was down, so we had to do it by hand. And I was like, I can't remember. And there's all these things I could not remember. So take notes, because you're probably not going to remember what they say. Next, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this one, but the Pitocin, I wish that I didn't realize that they were giving me Pitocin. I'm sure I signed something when I was in active labor saying that I'll take it, but I understand it's kind of protocol for a lot of hospitals, but I'll never forget when I was doing nursing clinicals and the nurse said that we had to double glove when you touch the bag of Pitocin because it can cause cancer. And I'm like, but it can go in your body. And I did skin to skin and breastfeeding right afterwards. So I'm like, surely like my body's releasing oxytocin, which is the natural version. Pitocin is a synthetic version. So I'm like, I don't think that I should need Pitocin when I'm breastfeeding and skin to skin. I mean, I need to do more research, so do your own research on that one, but I wish that, I didn't even realize they were giving me Pitocin afterwards. I was just, obviously, I just gave birth. My mind is all over the place. I wasn't thinking straight, but I would have probably liked to refuse the Pitocin. Family photos. Make sure you don't have to get these done professionally, but make sure you take a photo of the 3 of you, you and your baby, or 4 of you if you're having twins, because my husband, baby, and I, we had like 1 selfie. We didn't have any photos of us like sitting in the hospital bed with our baby, so that was sad not having that. But we did have a bunch of beautiful photos that one of the nurses took. They were like, give me your phone to my husband as the baby was like about to come out. And they took photos, which was really sweet, of like us 3 and the baby on my chest, and it was so sweet. But she didn't take a picture of my husband cutting the umbilical cord, which is one of my points of things that I want to do the same, is have my husband cut the umbilical cord. It's just like a fun thing. And he didn't know if he was going to want to do it, because like I said, it's like kind of freaky, but he did do it. And that's just like something that we'll remember forever. But I wish there was a photo of it. So make sure you tell them you want a photo of that. Another thing is, make sure you have, they'll give you so like pretty much everything you need in the hospital, but I wish that I would have asked for more or bought some underwear, like ice pack cooling gels. Basically like crack them and then put them in your underwear, and it's an ice pack. And I only had a couple days worth. I wish that I had more, because those were like life-changing. Another thing is estrogen gel. If you're breastfeeding, for some reason your body like doesn't make the estrogen it needs to help heal. So I was still like a mess and in so much pain up until 7 weeks. My midwife prescribed me estrogen gel, but for some reason I was like, I didn't feel like going to the pharmacy, and I was like, I'm sure I don't need it. But then as soon as I got it, I healed super quick. So bring up estrogen gel with your provider if you're breastfeeding and get it if they prescribe it to you. Another thing is, I highly recommend that you have a therapist throughout pregnancy and maybe postpartum. Some people struggle during pregnancy, some people struggle postpartum. Postpartum I was fine, but pregnancy I was mentally like a disaster. So I highly recommend having a therapist. Whether or not your pregnancy was planned, it's still a lot of hormonal changes. Like it's like being on your, when you're on your period and you're like this, or like throughout your cycle. Well, pregnancy for me was like this actually, but there wasn't many highs, so it was more so like this. So having a therapist would have been really helpful. I wish that I would have. I was also navigating like more life changes than most people have in their entire life. So if possible, don't have a bunch of life changes planned for during your pregnancy right after you give birth, because that's a lot to navigate all at once. But what was I saying there? It's something else. I'm kind of like jumping between tips for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So another thing is, while you're like in the hospital, or maybe while you're laboring at home, put on comfort TV or movie, because that really helps distract you. A huge chunk of my labor, I was just sitting at home in a rocking chair with a heating pad on my back, which, bring your heating pad to the hospital. You will be so glad you have that. Anyway, a heating, I think my baby's waking up. And I was watching Vampire Diaries for hours and hours during my labor, and I think that's what got me through it. And then I was, okay, I'm back. My son was waking up from his nap. I think I went over everything that I wanted to do differently. I don't remember if I said or not. I'm trying not to have any big life changes during this time. I think I did. Okay, so as far as things that I will be doing the same for my next pregnancy and that I recommend is getting professional baby photos in the hospital. Definitely worth it. They're adorable. My midwife recommended that I start eating dates, I think at 36 or 37 weeks. From there, they say 4 to 6 dates a day will reduce your labor by average of 6 hours. So I wasn't super duper consistent about it. I think pretty much every day I had at least one date, but not 4 to 6 because I did not like the way they tasted. But it was kind of good making a milkshake out of it. So I think my next pregnancy, I'll put more effort into that. And then when I was in the hospital, dimming the lights and having music, my comfort playlist is a Bridgerton soundtrack. So listening to that, I think really helped me relax. And, oh, actually I thought of something else I want to do differently. I'm gonna write that down. So if you guys know anything about like the comb method, or like to block, basically the comb method is to hold a comb in your hand and squeeze it hard, because the pain from that is just like block your neurotransmitter so that you don't feel the pain from labor, because basically you can only have one pain signal going up and down your spinal cord at a time. And I was so beside myself with pain the last 2 hours, like hour and a half of labor and then a half an hour of pushing, that I kind of forgot everything I knew. But next time I'm going to try to remember that and bring a comb and hold it in my hand to squeeze to try to take away the pain. But anyway, so back to what I want to do the same. So like I said, my husband cutting the umbilical cord, that was a fun thing that I'll remember forever. So I definitely recommend that. And then a cervical sweep. So my last appointment, I was 39 weeks in 4 days, and she asked if I wanted to do like a cervix sweep, and I was like, like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. She told me it could stimulate labor, and at the end, you just want to go have the baby so bad. So I was like, sure. So she did that. It was a little uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt, and I think that really helped, because within like half an hour, I was cramping. My appointment was, I think, at 11:30. And I started cramping at noon. And so I guess I didn't really realize I was fully in labor until like maybe 10 o'clock that night. I was like, yeah, I'm in labor. So anyway, I just kind of like cramped all day. And so I should have said this at the beginning. So my labor started at noon, and I labored at home, labored in the bath. Highly recommend that. And I went on a long walk. So around 3 p.m., I went on like a 1.5 mile walk. Definitely recommend walking as much as possible throughout your whole pregnancy and labor. I think that really, really helped. So, and then, like I said, sat in my rocking chair with the heating pad, watching Vampire Diaries. And then I labored in my bath for a couple of hours. Highly recommend that. That really took away the pain. It was so soothing and comforting, and it just felt so good. I would love to give birth in the bath. I'd really love to give birth at a birthing center, but I don't know if I have the guts for that, and I have to look into how insurance works for that. But I would love to do that, because the hospital, I don't know, they weren't the nicest. That's one thing I wasn't sure if I was going to say or not. But for your provider, make sure you have a provider, the same provider the whole time, because at the practice I went to, it was 4 midwives, and basically whoever was on call you would have. And I loved 3 of the midwives. There was just one I didn't like, and she was the one that delivered my baby. And I felt like the nurses and her were just pretty mean to me. Like, I was in so much pain. I didn't have any pain medication, and I was like, basically saying like, I don't want to push, like it hurts too bad. Can I just like let my body do it? Because your body will push one way or another, you'll have that baby. But anyway, and I felt like just everyone was kind of being mean. And so make sure that you really, really like your midwife or OBGYN, because it's a very, very vulnerable moment. It's the most vulnerable moment of your life. You want someone that's going to be nice and advocate for you and cheer you on, not belittle you and be mean to you. Anyway, what was I saying? So highly recommend laboring in the bath, and if you can, giving birth in the bath, that'd be awesome. And then something else is, we didn't do a bath in the hospital for our baby, just because I've read a lot about the vernix, which is the stuff that they're covered in on their skin when they're born, is really, really good, and it's a protective layer the baby needs. So we didn't do a bath in the hospital. We waited like, I think, at least a week, maybe 10 days to give him his first bath at home. And then if you're breastfeeding, silver nipple shields will save your life, because it's very painful in the beginning. Your nipples are just cracked and dry, and it really hurts. But the nipple shields were life-changing. Whenever I wasn't nursing, I kept them in my bra, and that felt really good. Well, I think that I covered anything. I hope I'm not forgetting anything, but these are just some tips that I think that I wish that I knew, and I'm going to incorporate with my next pregnancy and birth, and I hope that I can help somebody else out. But whatever you need to do, I mean, pregnancy and labor is hard enough, so just whatever you can do to get by. Like, one thing I really, really, really wish I did more of is exercise more when I was pregnant, but I was just so nauseous and throwing up that I just couldn't. So do whatever you can do. Oh, one last thing. I have been doing this stretch for like years to help prepare my body for labor, and I feel like it really helped. Basically, you squat down as low as you can and kind of like put your hands between your knees, so you're like this, your knees on each side, and just kind of sit in that pose for like a few minutes every single day. That will really open up your lips for labor. So doing that every day, and other stretches, just opening your hips, I highly recommend that before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and definitely in the last few weeks. But that's everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found these tips useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week for my regular weekly vlog. Thank you.